Are you looking for a new whiskey adventure? Then climb in and buckle up. Get ready for one hell of a ride on the Whiskey Trip podcast with your host, Big Chief. Join in as he and his guests explore whiskey and dive into whiskey stories from around the world. Now here's your host, Big Chief.
Hey, it's old Big Chief, and yeah, you're taking another ride on the whiskey trip. And folks, do I got a show for you today? Like always, I got a show for you every damn week, really. You notice I'm rocking this bourbon bullshitter t-shirt here. You can see it a little bit. But a lot of people have been asking about this shirt. I'm going to do a special order of it. So what you'll have to do is go ahead and you'll pay up front for the shirt. It'll take about 2 or 3 weeks for me to get them made. I'll do a run of like 50. Once I get to 50, I'll put the order in for them. But I will do not this color right here. This is a limited edition. I might even do some limited edition ones. But they will be a wicking type of material, probably around $30, $35, $5 standard shipping, and I'll get them out to everybody. So $35 for a bourbon bullshitter t-shirt. It'll have that on the front and my logo on the back. Make sure that if you want one, you got to get in on the deal. It's a limited time only thing. Do 50 of them. Once I get to 50, I'll order them. So hopefully I'll get more 50 made. But this week on the whiskey trip, I'm going to pour it neat and unfiltered with unapologetic, sharp tongue force behind Brewtally Honest Bourbon, known for calling it like he tasted it. Brandon's going to join me for a show and a conversation that pulls no punches, from overhyped bottles to underrated gems, bourbon blunders, and the real heart of America's favorite spirit. While we're doing that, we're going to kind of taste through what Barton 1792 has, that distillery that you used to be able to go visit, but now they closed down tours to it. But we're going to taste through those. We're going to dive into that. And then we're going to give away that bottle right over there, a foolproof, in those 2 glasses at the end of the show. So you stick with us throughout the show. You're going to have to listen to figure out what we're going to do. And we're really going to deep dive into Brewtally Honest Bourbon and his journey of building this show. I always like to say, rising tides raise all ships. Well, my old ship is beatered. It's battered. It has got holes in it. It's sinking a little bit. And I always like to latch on to somebody's rising up and pull me up. So, Brandon, welcome to the whiskey trip, my brother.
Thanks for having me, Big Chief.
Man, that is a badass set you got back there, and that's not just some. That's real. Those are real bottles back there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I guess we've been working on that for the better part of about 4 months in the basement, trying to get out of the wife's dining room. She was tired of me being there. Unfortunately, I've got flies down here right now, but. So yeah, I just got everything moved in. I think I got the last few bottles put off the countertop into the cabinets today. So I appreciate it.
I like it. It's beautiful, man. And that damn beard you got, that might be one of the sexiest beards in a whiskey. It's like gleaming. It's almost like you got LED lights inside there.
That's funny. I get accused of dyeing it, but I'm like, how would I miss all these grays if I dyed it? But I don't have any head hair, Chief, so I'm proud to have the beard.
Hey, man, I trust me. If I could get rid of my damn eyebrows and not have to get them trimmed, it cost me $25 just to trim my eyebrows. They're like, you get a haircut, and then I say, can you trim my? It's more expensive to cut my eyebrows than it is my hair. That's a shame. Shameful.
my daughter's just the opposite. She looks like she has none. So,
I wish. Trust me. Tell her, say, look, this man's got 2 caterpillars. It's not caterpillars. It's 2 raccoons jumped up on my forehead. And they start wrestling every once in a while, moving around and stuff. I'm sipping on. A lot of people don't like this right here, but you notice I got that big old giant 1792 glass right there, and I got a little whiskey in there. But I'm sipping on something to start out the show that most people don't like too much. I've got this 1792 sweet wheat. This is a bottle that I chased back in the day that I had to have because, I'm the wheated king of Kentucky, so I really wanted the sweet wheat. A lot of people don't like it, but I love it. It's tasty to me. So I say drink what you like. What you sipping on there first?
So the Bottle and Bond is one of my favorites. I don't have a 1792 that I dislike. I'm real fond of it. It's got a great price point, and it's really good whiskey. But figured for the first pour, I'd do a Bottle and Bond.
at Bottle and Bonds, and I'm gonna try some of that on a second half here. Well, let's talk about how we met. I noticed, I'm always checking out new content, and there's so much out there on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And I come across your channel, and I was like, man, something about you just resonated with me. And I was like, I want to talk to this guy. So I reached out to you and said, hey, maybe we can collaborate. And we started talking, and I think you started looking my stuff up and started asking me questions. Hey, how do you communicate with distilleries and stuff? And we just started talking, and it just kind of went from there to where we kind of built a friendship to where we can text each other and stuff.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, initially you reached out, and obviously when somebody reaches out and you're newer like I was at the time, you're hesitant, you're thinking it's some hacker or whatever, but we immediately got on the phone, and you just started offering suggestions. You told me who you were, gave me your background, and you were like, here's some things that I think that you could do that would help you out. And man, did it not. It helped a ton. And since we've been talking, I can't name or number the amount of people that you've introduced me to. So it's been integral in my growth.
Well, there's always, I think there's always people out there that are going to start a show, and there's so many. And most people, and I told you this, most people don't last that first year. It's just so tough to come up with new content, and to your name, Brutally Honest Bourbon. That's tough to be brutally honest with people and stuff. But you do it in such a respectful way to distilleries. You're not shocking all. You're not trying to hurt anybody. And we talked about that, and I thank you. Hats off to you for doing this. But you are so respectful to distillers and concerned about how your content could affect them, and I just love that out of you, man.
Yeah, I mean, and my wife picks on me, and I get beat up a lot. Harry said the other day, a guy come in and said, "Man, that guy, what's his name? Brutally Honest." He's like, "Does he dislike a whiskey?" I was like, Harry, he's not watching my content if he didn't see that I do dislike. But it's few and far in between the ones that I don't, and that's all I'm telling you is what I like and what I dislike. I can't tell you that a product is good or bad. I don't like Balcones. Personally, that's just not a whiskey for me. I can't say Balcones is a bad whiskey. I respect the art, and it's whether the guys are distilling it themselves, whether they're contract distilling it, or whether they're NDPs. Like, there's an art there to putting something good in a glass, and I respect that. I also respect the fact that I may not like it, and I have no shame in telling you that I dislike it, but 9 times out of 10, I'm going to like it.
Yeah, there's something about liking a whiskey, and I really can't say there's a distillery out there I don't like. There might be personalities of the distillery I don't like, or their politics, or the way they run their business and stuff, but I respect their whiskey for what it is. Now how they go about handling themselves, that's what's distasteful to me and stuff. And, I think that speaks for itself. But usually I'll try to find something that a distillery likes, or I'll go back to a distillery that I've told in the past, hey, you're just not ready for my palate yet. And I'll go back to that. And, man, that has helped me so much through the past 7 or 8 years of tasting whiskey and talking about it. Is, man, some of those distillers that I go back to, one of them is a friend of ours, both a mutual friend, is Philip over at Distillery Acadia. And I went back to him and said, man, your whiskey has gotten so much better, and you have improved your craft. And he was appreciative of that. Him and his father were. So I noticed the other day you did a review on one of my favorite distilleries of all time. I love them, but I love them because of the people there too, not just the whiskey. But Leaper's Fork Distillery is like a family to me. So you did a review on their whiskey, and you love their rye, if I remember right.
That's right.
So have you found it to be hard to be brutally honest and stuff?
It's getting easier, because in the beginning I didn't want to come across as rude, and I didn't want to be disrespectful. And I think with the name that I came up with, I think people expected me to be that way, just to totally just dump on these brands, and I can't do that, man. Even if I don't like them, and even if they've done something to me, and we're at differences, I'm not going to speak negatively about them. I just don't think that's the way to be if you're going to be in the business of promoting people. That's what I'm here to do, is promote these brands. So, I want to do that. And even like with balcons per se, like I want to find a balcons that I like. I've had 3 or 4, didn't really like them, but that's not to say that they're not going to have an offering that I do like. Personally, I don't know them. I haven't connected with them, but I'm just not going to say anything bad about them. But Leaper's Fork was one of those. With the, I said it in the video the first time we visited. It was the first tour we ever went on, so it was unique. It was cool to go in and see what was going on, taste the mash, and see the process, and then go to the tasting room. And I just wasn't wild with the whiskey, and that's only been a couple years ago. And then ran back across them at Bourbon by the Bay and had some cask strength and really, really liked it. So they sent me, the bottle and bond offerings, and I really didn't like the wheated bourbon. I find that I don't like wheated bourbons as often, but that's not to say that I don't like wheated bourbon at all. But I did like their Tennessee whiskey, and I love Old Dominic's Tennessee whiskey. But there were certain things at Old Dominic that I didn't like. I don't like a lot of their research and development stuff, so there's going to be that. But then there's also a palette out there for that, and there are people that are going to like it. So I try to tell my viewers, hopefully I can help you, either by our palates resonate, and I say, hey, I like that, you try it, you like it. Now if I say I like something, you might like it. Or the opposite. I say I like it, you totally dislike it, and now you can say, hey, if Brandon liked it, I'm probably not going to buy that bottle.
Well, first off, how did you come up with your name, Brewtally Honest Bourbon? And what made you want to start like social media and being a whiskey influencer?
So the name Brewtally Honest was made from a friend of mine, but I told him, I said, this is what I want to do. So going back to what even got me started before the name was my next door neighbor. When they moved in years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and he was like, do you drink whiskey? I was like, yeah, I drink whiskey. I've got some Jim Beam apple over there and a little bit of Jack. And I said, I like bourbon. I didn't know what I was talking about. He's like, man, I'd like for you to come over and try some of these bottles that I have. And I go over there, and he's got 50 or 60 bottles, and I'm wowed. Like, who in the world has 50 bottles of whiskey in their house? So he starts sharing and starts teaching me history and teaching me what bottle and bond is and what rye whiskey is and what bourbon is. And I become mesmerized with it, and I grew up with Seth Detling, and Seth's been making whiskey for about 11 years now. So I always supported him in the background, but early on, I didn't like his whiskey. But I just started putting 2 and 2 together because I've always had an entrepreneurial type spirit. I love to support smaller businesses. For me, it's mostly barbecue prior to this, but if you come up with a business and somehow it fits in my life, I'm going to promote it. I'm going to post it on Facebook and say, hey, man, I had the best whatever with this company, because I like to see these smaller guys come up and be recognized. I feel like the larger brands have tons of R&D and advertisement marketing money that they don't need my help, right? But I feel like the little guy does. And then there's little guys out there that are just making phenomenal products that need that. So I was like, man, I really think I would like to. So Jeff and I started hunting bottles. He was sharing bottles with me. I was like, man, I need to go get that bottle. And so I'd go into a liquor store and I'd send him pictures. What about this one? What about that one? Or he would say, if you see this or if you see that, grab it. So I'd started hunting, and I was like, man, I could just start videoing this and sharing it with people. And obviously I'd started seeing a few videos of the other 100,000 creators that are out there. I was like, man, this is a pretty cool thing. I'd like to put my spin on it. And obviously, knowing who Fred Minnick is and some of the other bigger influencers out there, people were saying they're bought and paid for. He only likes that 1792 bottle and bond because they paid him to like it. I don't think that's true at all for Fred. But I was like, I want to be known as an influencer that'll never be bought and paid for. 1792 could pay me $1 million to drink this whiskey, and if they want my honest opinion, that's what they're going to get. And if I like it, I like it. And if I don't, I'll tell you. And I just hope that over time that will sustain itself with people, and they won't think that, that I'm bought and paid for. So I just wanted to be brutally honest. And so we started thinking of how do we logo that? How do we brand it? And Corbin was like, spell it like brewing a beer. He's like, that just fits into the, everything within beer and whiskey and everything is brewed. So spell it like brew. So Brewtally Honest Bourbon. I was like, man, I like it. What should my logo look like? And Heather was talking about, she always says I have a mean mug face, kind of like Ice Cube. And Corbin was like, man, just get a logo made with your face mean mugging and Brutally Honest Bourbon. So we put that on a barrel head, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. I love it. I gotta say, you went from like sipping in silence to becoming a voice in the whiskey wilderness for people that are looking for a voice and somebody that resonates with you, that blue collar guy, because you work on oil rigs, right? You're offshore all the time. You are that roughneck. You are the blue collar guy. Where Fred is more, he wears an ascot, and Fred's who Fred is, and I don't say he's bought and paid for. He's just who Fred is. He's honest himself. He just, he gets a lot of whiskey put in his hands. And
he's got a huge influence.
It's like Bruzel. I would say he's either bigger or just as big as Fred is, with his influence. And people just resonate with that blue collar, but he's not blue collar really. Where you are, to me, you're blue collar. You're what America's all about. So I think that's where people resonate with you. They look at you and say, okay, you're from a certain part of the country, you're Southern, you got that voice like me that just resonates with people. Like, man, that guy drives a pickup, he goes to work every day, he takes his work boots off at night, and he's probably got a wife or a significant other that puts a glass of whiskey in his hand and wants him to live the best life he can, and relax. And whiskey's through that. But you're telling that story. You're telling those folks, like you said, you don't like balconies because of the taste, but it grew on you. And I'm sure at one point they're going to have a whiskey, especially now that they're going into 2 American single malts and no more bourbons and stuff. Big deal for them, and that's like old news. There's all kinds of news we'd cover today if we wanted to. There's so much out there, but yeah, it's your journey is fascinating to me, and you resonated with me. I was like, man, this guy's like me right here, just a regular old dude.
Thank you.
And then I got to meet you over at Detling with Seth and stuff. And if you haven't met Seth and you've seen the episode with us, he is just salt of the earth. He's who he is. He's unapologetic about his whiskey. That's just who he is. You either like it or you don't like it. And I noticed a lot of the places that you talk about it not fitting your palate has pot stills, I've noticed. And the whiskeys that you do like have column stills. So I'm wondering if it's that pot still thing for you. But there's some, I guess there is some that you like, that's a pot still and I like that. So
I think it's a real delicate process with the pot still, right? I think that you can get a little crazy with it, and you can scorch it, you can burn it, get your temperature too high. You can change the whiskey more rapidly. And I think a column still is not quite as intricate. I think you can kind of let it do its thing. So maybe that's what allows the whiskey to come off a little better. But I think those that have the pot still that know how to really use them do have whiskeys that I like. But that's a great point.
So I just poured another pour. I'm going to get deep in this episode right here, folks. I'm drinking some single barrel from 1792. And this proofed it up a little bit. The single barrel on this one right here is the 98.6. Do you know a whole lot about 1792?
What I know of them is that they're Barton juice. They've got a lot of history. They're very affordable. They've got one of the sexiest looking bottles on the market, which is the only reason I ever bought my first 1792. And once I bought it and saw the others, I was like, I've got to have them all. I want the whole collection. The sweet wheat, I ended up trading it to somebody because it wasn't for me. But that's about my knowledge of them. You probably know 10 times more. This is
a super historic distillery. Tom Moore Springs is there on site. Limestone water coming out of that spring. He founded the distillery in the late 1800s, and then it ended up going through many different owners over time and stuff. And then Oscar Getz, a lot of people were thinking Oscar Getz is a museum in Bardstown. It is, but before Oscar Getz had that, he had the Barton distillery. He's the one that named it Barton and stuff. And then it went through Prohibition and stuff. Let me back up. It went through Prohibition, and that's when Oscar Getz bought the Barton 1792 distillery, and he's the one that named it that, Barton, after Barton Springs. And then 2009, Sazerac purchases it. They start changing some stuff up. They actually had a warehouse collapse there in 2018, and then they had another collapse a couple months right after that. And in the 2022, they shut tours down there. Sazerac completely shut it down. And I think it's because of the warehouses there and safety issues. Maybe they thought that there was going to be more falling and stuff, and they couldn't shore it up properly and stuff. It is very historic there, right in downtown Bardstown. But 2022, they shut down tours altogether. You can still go as a single barrel, do a single barrel pick there, and they'll take you on a tour and stuff. But that's the only way to get a tour of that place, unless you know somebody, or if you're an influencer like one of us, you might be able to get in there and do a tour or something. But that's 1792 in a short version. They have a lot of different expressions. They come out with a Thomas More line a couple years ago and stuff, and they make Old Barton's one of the whiskeys out there that they make and stuff. It's my understanding that military special that I drink, kind of coming up as a man and drinking whiskey in the Class 6 of military facilities, that's what I would drink. That came from that distillery. They make a lot of juice there. They got giant stills, so that's in a nutshell. They make a lot of good stuff. That high rye you're drinking right there, that's a beautiful whiskey. Yeah.
To be a low proof, I like it. I enjoy it.
Over this past couple years, and I've known you for a year now, has there been any underrated gems that you found out there? Because you do a lot of kind of bourbon hunting, and you work with predominantly two liquor stores, Spillway and Rome Liquors, right? Is that the two you usually work with?
Yeah, we've started working with the Spot 280 here in Birmingham as well, and I had 4 more in Atlanta call today that we'll probably start relationships with. But yeah, those are the two that kind of started with, Rome and Spillway.
And I've been to both of those. Rome is it's a little bit out of the way. Let's just say that. But once you walk in there, it's like a little whiskey heaven for people. So I'd say if you are in central, I guess West Central Georgia, near Rome, Georgia, go by there and find this place, and you'll be rewarded for the travel.
He does a lot of great picks, man. He's got a good palate, and he's not far from Atlanta. 45 minutes, I guess, out of Atlanta. So, in my opinion, if you don't go that way often, it's worth the extra 45 minutes to ride by and see Harry.
So what's your number one over the past couple of years since you've kind of got in this? Your first number one underrated gem, what would that be?
The most underrated whiskey for me, and a lot of people may understand that and get it, so it may not come off as a shock, but Old Grandad 114, for the price point of that whiskey, I don't think you can beat it for the flavor and complexity that's there. I double oaked a bunch of it, 7 or 8 bottles, and turned out fantastic. But that's probably my favorite underrated whiskey. There's a ton, right? But that's probably the number one.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I dig that. I think my number one underrated whiskey has got to be from a craft distillery, and that's Iron Root Republic out of Denison, Texas. Their Harbinger. It whooped old Kentucky's ass. It's the best bourbon in the world back in 2020, I think. So to me, that's that gem that people need to find. And for the price point, $50.
Wow.
Man, and it's high proofed. I love that.
Honestly.
Man, I'm gonna have to send a man a bottle. I'm telling you, to me, you got to kind of close your eyes and not be what I call ageist, and not look at the age of that whiskey, because it's a Texas bourbon, right? So our ages are here a little different than everybody else's, but you kind of got to look at that and just taste it for what it is. What would be one of your bourbon blunders that you've made?
Chasing after the labels and chasing after what everybody else is getting. The number one for me would have been the Weller lineup. When I first got into whiskey, you've got to have every Weller, right? You've got to get the full proof and the 107 and the 12 year, and you've got to get the special reserve, and then if you're Lord willing, you can get a single barrel or CYPB, and you got to have the rainbow. And I like the full proof. I like the 107. Didn't care for anything else. So that was a huge blunder, because it's expensive when you start looking on secondary, and at that point you're collecting, right? And I got away from collecting real quick.
Well, that's a great bourbon blunder, I think, and a lot of people got to have everything that Buffalo Trace makes, not just the Weller lineup, but they'll try to do the antique collection, and a lot of people are gonna get hate on this right here, but I think Buffalo Trace is overhyped. They're over marketed. People just fall in love with the name, and because as Americans, when we can't have something, we'll overpay for it. We got to go to the ends of the earth for it. And I probably made that mistake when I first started. My biggest bourbon blunder, and listeners out there, you're gonna be shocked at this, but I got scammed whenever I first started, and it pissed me off, because it wasn't like it was cheap whiskey that I was buying. It was pretty pricey, but I got scammed online, and there was no way to get my money back, and I actually lost somebody else's money too, because they were like, man, if you can get a bottle for that cheap, you're in this whiskey thing, you know it. And hey, I got scammed. It is what it is, but I learned my lesson. That was my biggest blunder ever. I think it was like $250 I lost, but I probably lost more than that on buying bottles that I shouldn't have bought for the price. Now I know I don't pay over MSRP for something. I'll look it up, and I won't walk into a liquor store and argue with them. I just walk out and they're like, oh, this is so cheap. And I'm like, no, it's not. There's not even no point in arguing with a liquor store owner. Just walk back out, and they need to sell it that bad. They need to sell it and rip somebody off, not me though. So, so what's one of your biggest surprises in whiskey so far?
You stumped me on that one. I would say that when I found Heaven Hill 18, I was blown away. Thought it was great, and I bought it. Being blown away would be trying Heaven Hill 17 next to it and realizing that it was light years ahead of the 18, in my opinion. I'm sure if I'd thought about this a little longer, I could have come up with a better example, but that was probably the one thing, because at that point in time, George T. Stagg 23 was the absolute best whiskey I'd ever tried. But when I tried that 17, it was a monster. That brings up a good point. My biggest shock was the first buff turkey I'd ever tried, which just so happened to be in a Good Times Old Zach bottle. It was a 15-year, and I put it against that 17. I put it against the George T. Stagg 23, and I put it against the Russell's 15, and it won for me blind. I blinded 5 more buddies, and it won 4 out of 5 with them and came in second on the other. So that's the biggest shock, the fact that there's some buff turkey barrels out there that are fantastic, but on the flip side, there's some out there that are just okay. The price point is ridiculous. I don't think it is even applicable. But those are my two biggest shock. Finding out Heaven Hill 17 would beat George C. Stagg for me, and finding out that a Buff Turkey bottle could beat both of them.
I watched Midwest Distillers out of Ohio in a blind challenge with 4 pretty big whiskey drinkers. 4 guys, myself, and 3 other guys. We did a bourbon blind challenge show, and it was actually Horse Soldier Cast Strength that won the night over Cast Strength, E.H. Taylor, Maker's Mark Cast Strength, and I don't remember the other one, but it blew it away, the other 3, with all 4 of us. And we didn't know what we were drinking. I knew what I brought, but I didn't know at the time that's what I was drinking, and we voted on it, and that's what won the night. Out of that night was Midwest Distillers whiskey, because that's what Horse Soldier is right now. A lot of people don't know that, but it's a wheated bourbon, and it's cast strength. It was amazing, and to this day. But one of the other things that shocks me still today, is the amount of money that not only the major distilleries spend on marketing, but the money that craft distillers just waste on marketing their stuff to magazines and to bygone media, when they have folks like yourself that they could send a bottle of whiskey to and get more content and better content out of you. They just don't want to change their ways, and they're going back to that same well and expecting that same result that they've got from, maybe they watched Mad Men or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
it's like
that's what
that liquor
shocks
store
me.
owner. I don't argue with them, but I think the ones that do trust people like me and you, they see it, that it's exponentially more rewarding for them, because not only am I going to review it and tell you what I think, but I'm going to share it with 100 of my friends and let them try it and let them tell it, and that's where, they say the rubber meets the road when the whiskey meets the glass. That's what tells the story. I don't care about the label. I don't care about the mash bill or the age. You were talking about age earlier with the whiskey that you like the most, and I don't really think age is 100% applicable, because it's not relative. When we talk age, we're talking Kentucky whiskey, whether we say it or not. I'm not paying that for Detling 6-year rye came out. So many people. I'm not paying that for a 6-year rye. You just told me I'm not paying that for a 6-year Kentucky rye. That's what you said. You just don't know it. You don't understand what a 6-year Alabama rye, Mississippi, Texas. You don't know what that is. Heck, you don't know what Colorado 6-year whiskey is. It's not Kentucky or Indiana. I promise you, it's different. And that's not to take anything away from Kentucky or Indiana. It's just, it's not applicable. And you just need to put the whiskey in the glass and see if you like it, and forget everything else. Then learn the facts. That's my opinion.
Well, what they've been taught by Kentucky,
That's right.
is they've been taught this by marketing, right? They've listened to that marketing, and that marketing works there. That whiskey has to be a certain age. In Scotland, it has to be a certain age. But in America, it doesn't. Like you said, terroir out there of different states, the humidity, the altitude, the dryness, if you get to West Texas, everything matters in a whiskey, I think. And same thing with rum and tequila and all that, but and whiskey especially, where it's aged at. You put it to Scotch. If you have your peated Scotches which aren't by the sea, but then you have your non-peated Scotches are aged by the sea. They're two different characters, and you can't judge one Scotch to another Scotch. It just doesn't work right. So that would be I'm glad we agree on that, man. I just love it. And I think we talked about this. I always say ageist. I can't stand them.
I sent Fred a message and talked to him about it when he went on the Bourbon Pursuit podcast, and they started talking about age statements coming back. And, I went to him and to Kenny and them, and I said, look, just give me your thoughts on this. But I listened to the podcast. You're talking age. Do you realize that what you're talking about is Kentucky age? Because I feel like there's a whole consumer base out there that thinks that every whiskey in the United States is aged relative to Kentucky, and it's not. And Fred was like, I'm going to have to put some thought into that, and I'll get back to you on it. So I'm anxious to hear what he says. But, age in a whiskey is relative to the interaction that the whiskey has with the barrel. And if it's interacting with that barrel more frequently, if it's staying pushed in the wood longer because the heat stays hot longer and they don't get as much cold rest marinate time, it changes that, right? Or if you get a good hot and cold swing over a course of a month, then that whiskey's done something different than another place that it may not have done that. And another thing I think people don't realize is that whiskey doesn't acclimate instantly. You know, if you go from 100 degrees today to 40 degrees tonight, that whiskey doesn't change that rapidly. Like, that whiskey is still a set temperature in the barrel. So it has to have several days of heat or several days of cold for it to change in temperature and for the barrel to do what it does. But I don't know. We'll just keep talking to people and hopefully they'll get it eventually.
Well, some people, they won't give it up. They won't give it up. Well, Brandon, we're up against the first half, man. We done went 35 minutes, easy conversation. I love it. I hope the listeners out there of both of our shows love this content right here. Something different than just talking to distilleries, because we both can get on that roll where we talk to several in a row, and we just don't talk to each other sometimes. And like I said, Brandon is a rising ship. And he's going places. That big old giant shiny beard of his is going places. Stick with us on a second half. We're going to get into two other pours here. We'll talk about that giveaway right there. You're going to want that bottle. So stick with us. We'll be right back. Seldom Seen Farm, bringing bourbon barrel-aged maple syrup goodness from everything from pancakes to whiskey cocktails. Seldom Seen Farm in Northern Ohio has something magical for your whiskey cocktails instead of that old basic simple syrup. Kevin Holy and his family are harvesting the sap from over their 5,000 maple trees and turning it into something delicious, maple syrup. He then goes a step further by aging in bourbon barrels for 6 to 9 months. That's right, bourbon barrel-aged maple syrup. Shh, don't tell Miss Viv, but I love to pour it over my butter pecan ice cream. Visit them at seldomseenmaple.com. All right, listeners, we're back for the second half, and I got Brewtally Honest Bourbon with me, Brandon, the bearded man from Alabama with that big old bustling beard you got, man. I don't know, but does the bourbon make it grow? The bourbon's made mine turn gray.
It must. It's definitely turning gray for sure.
Yeah, baby. Well, you got a bottle there. I just poured myself another glass of the 1792. This is actually right here. This is the 1792 bottle and bond I'm drinking right here. This was out of a liquor outlet, single barrel pick, that I was part of back in the day. Old school right there. What do you got right there?
So this is a 12-year. It's a 24 12-year. I know. No, it's a 23. I'm sorry. The 24 won Bourbon of the Year, I think. I don't remember who awarded it that, but I saw that and immediately came home and looked at mine, and it was the 23. But I haven't had it, so I was thinking I'd pop that open while we were videoing and see what we thought about it.
Let's get one of those brutally honest reviews right here on camera. That way people know that this is real. Most people think these reviews are like fake and we like AI them or something. But
you know, Chief, I don't even script. I've been told by so many people that, you know, you need to put a script together. I don't. I turn the camera on and I just start talking, and thank God for editing, right?
You think Joe Rogan scripts it?
I doubt that very seriously.
He's rolling some script is what he's doing.
Right, for sure. Obviously, I don't remember what the proof was on this thing, but 1792, it's going to be right at a 97 proof, 96.6, 12 years. Obviously, I typically like a little higher proof, but, you know, there again, that's another one of those generic statements. You say you like higher proof, and that's the assumption for me that it's not watered down. Some things come out cask strength at 100 proof, 104 proof, 110 proof. No water on them. Detling's one of those, right? I think Angel's Envy did a cask strength bottled and bond. It was a 100 proof blend of, you know, higher and lower proofs. So when I say I like higher proofs, what I really mean is I like less water. Give me cask strength, give me full proof. and I'm happy. So,
Well, if you go into the barrel into the barrel at 105 proof, and you're in the right climate, you're gonna come around somewhere around there without proofing it down, right? Where if you go in at a higher proof and you're down on the Gulf Coast, where there's so much humidity and stuff, you can come out some amazing hazmat whiskeys,
for sure,
real quick. So you got to be careful and stuff. Well, let's hear what you got on this whiskey right here.
Talking about going in the barrel at a lower proof, that's something that Seth does pretty frequently. And I was talking with them at Hard Truth. They do that as well. And scientifically, adding the water to the whiskey before you go into the barrel, and the way that changes the whiskey and interacts with the chemical reaction in the barrel, gives you a better product in the end. But it costs you more money, right? Because you've got a lot more barrels involved from adding the water, as opposed to dumping it and adding the water before you bottle it, which that's just something I just don't really want to do. But maybe I don't understand whiskey well enough. But when you let the bean counters get involved and they want to stretch it, that's where I'm kind of like, no, thank you.
Michter's is really big on doing that.
They are.
And a lot of people don't understand that. Now, while you're nosing that and getting some tasting notes together and nose in the palate and stuff, I would tell you that, to me, anything coming out of the Bardstown region has a little bit of nuttiness on it. Just Barton and Heaven Hill and even Bardstown Bourbon Company. It just gets this nuttiness to it for some reason, and it's that terroir of that Bardstown region right there.
And it's something that I'm fond of. It's one thing I'm fond of with bean juice, too. I love to get different types of nutty notes. That Broad Branch Big Winston is that way. I get pecan pie off of it. Love it. And funny that you say that about the Barton, because it's like a apricot cashew bomb for me, and it just jumps off the glass. I'm surprised that I haven't opened that bottle sooner. That's delicious smelling, and it's got a lot of color on it. I get picked on, and maybe I need to learn better articulation, but the only word I can think of when something hits my palate the way that just did is that it's buttery. It tastes like when you put butter into a cobbler or something like that. So I would almost say that that's some type of like fruit, peachy, apricot type cobbler with some nut in it, and absolutely delicious. That's a great pour. Shame on me for not having opened it sooner.
I say fuck those people that tell you the way your whiskey should taste. The tasting wheel was made from Chris Morris, and that's from his notes, his tasting palette from one man, and so many people just whore that out. They just keep using it and using it. It almost makes me sick. And when people are like, you don't taste cereal in your whiskey. Yes, I do.
You can.
I teach a taste what I grew up with peach pies. I like to make called a dump cake, where you take fresh fruit and just
Pineapple.
dump them in a cast iron pot, and then you pour a cake mix just on top of that, and throw a stick of butter in there, and put it on my smoker and let it roll, baby.
Smoker, huh?
Yeah, you haven't did one on a smoker?
No, but boy, I should. I've heard of people doing bread puddings and all kinds of different things on smokers, and I haven't, but I bet that is fantastic.
Then I take a little bit of that seldom seen syrup, baby, that's been aged in a maple barrel, and I pour a little bit of that on there. Don't tell Miss Viv now. I know the listeners would love that right there. So you get any other notes off of that, Brandon?
There's not a ton of barrel impact on it. It's a little bit leathery bitter on the backside, and it has just a hint of like a pepper spice on the very back of your palate, like going down your throat. But no, it's absolutely a delicious pour, and I'm like I said, I get the fruit, I get that. It covers the palate pretty nice. Maybe not as much as I would typically like a whiskey to, but a lot more than I expected it to. And I will say that I'm a 1792 foolproof freak, and I think that's what I'm pouring next. But so it's not quite there, but I'm very pleased with that pour. I would buy that bottle again in a heartbeat.
Well, that's a good bottle to buy. I've had a couple of those bottles, and I was actually looking for one tonight. I usually try to have my whiskey all together. That way it's organized. But as I go on these whiskey tastings, I'm actually going on one. By the time this airs, I'll have been down to Grand Isle, Louisiana, the end of the earth, to do a whiskey tasting for somebody's 40th birthday. And
Nice.
I'm probably
I used to
gonna
work
take,
down there. I used to work in Fouchon at Seaport too.
we're going to the Hurricane Hole is where we're staying at, and then we're going to their fish camp. So I'm pretty excited about it. For somebody's 40th birthday, they actually bought this in an auction that I had put towards a battered women's shelter over in Lake Charles, Louisiana, at the casino, and
Awesome.
I think they paid a pretty penny for it. And as a matter of fact, I know they did, and then they're paying for our travel over there and stuff. But I'm gonna try to take 40 bottles with me, and I'm going to take them through the history of American whiskey from about 1612 to modern day with my story for about 4 hours. Well, hopefully my whistles hold up.
That's
but,
awesome.
Hey, I think they deserve it.
I'm jealous that I'm not there for it. You know, you talk about them donating so much to that cause, but that's one of many beautiful aspects of this whiskey community. We did a fundraiser a couple weeks ago for a good friend of mine. His wife's been suffering with female cancer, and it just worked out that he called me on a Sunday. Now, he and I have been friends for 25 years. We don't talk all the time, but we're always tight. And he called one day, and I answered, and we got to talking, and I figured out the last 9 months of his life had been just pure misery, you know, from going through things with his wife and thinking he was going to lose her, and thank God she's still here, but she's still battling. And the next day we go to NBC. Oddly enough, I haven't even brought it up, and James comes out and pours us a sip of a bottle. We try it. We went crazy over it and said, "Where's it at? We want to buy it." And he said, "It's not for sale. You know, it's only for charity." And I was like, "What would you think about, you know, utilizing that for my buddy?" He's like, "Absolutely." And that turned into us reaching out to some people, telling them what we were doing, and we came up with 18 bottles, and we raised right at $5,000 to give them in, you know, about 48 hours time. And that just shows one aspect of how beautiful this whiskey community is, and another reason why I do it. I love to drink good whiskey, but the friends that you meet with it, that's where it's at.
That's no doubt, hands down, one of the best things I've did over the past like 7 or 8 years. Like I said, was just meet people, from across the face of the earth. Politics and religion, I always say those are the things I don't talk about on here, but whiskey almost takes that out of it, and people from different walks of life can actually gather around a table, share food, share whiskey, tell great stories and stuff. No one gets offended. In as much as some brands try to pull that in, it's guys like you and I that are trying to push that out and say, hey, there is none of that in whiskey. There's just different walks of life, different faiths, different people, men and women just coming together and drinking whiskey. They don't care about anything else, and I love it.
Me too.
We start talking about barbecue, now that's a different thing. You get some pissed off people talking about barbecue. Who has the best barbecue?
Really?
You know it. Come on now.
Motorcycles is probably the only other thing that's similar for me. I ride a Harley, but when you ride bikes and you pull up and there's another group of bikes there again, same thing. You know, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian, Indian. It doesn't matter that male, female. It doesn't matter if you're riding a trike or if you're riding a Honda or a Harley. Everybody just gets along. We all banter back and forth, right? Oh, you like Traveler. Oh, you ride a Honda. Like, you know, whatever. But
yeah.
Ultimately, we all take care of each other. We think the world of each other, and you meet new friends every time that you come together with that. And when I first started in whiskey, Heather's like, where in the world did this whiskey thing come from? Like, all of a sudden, whiskey just got big? I said, no, it just got big for me. I said, but it is cyclical, you know, and it is in a peak right now. But we watched a few documentaries, and one of the documentaries, the guy was talking about what whiskey was for him, and it was a little short clip of a video of him having some people over to his house, showed them coming to the front door, going down to the basement, you know, sharing drinks and some food, and talking about the differences that's going on in their life. You know, Sally over there just lost her job, Bob just lost his wife, whatever. But at that moment, while they're sitting there and they're drinking whiskey and they're together, that camaraderie just slows life down and nothing else matters for that duration of time. And she was like, I think I get it. So that helped me out a lot.
Well, let's talk some hot pet peeves and hot takes here. Let's I got some hot takes for you. And I'm gonna say a couple of phrases off, and I want you to give me a quick answer on it.
Oh God,
I'm trying something new here. Celebrity brands.
my initial perception is they're no good. That's not always right.
All right. Bottle flippers.
I despise it, but I'm a product of it. It makes it easy to get the ones you want, man, you know. But I hate it.
Instagram flex culture.
Nauseating.
Shit. TikTok.
Interesting. There's some good stuff there.
Facebook groups.
I like them.
Scammers.
Camaraderie. Scammers, loathe it. Like, and they're out there every day. Sickening.
Relentless as the motherfuckers. Relentless.
I mean, I've been taken by them. You've been taken by them. I talked with a buddy of mine earlier today talking about when he got took by one. And Lord knows, to be taken by one and lose your buddy's money too. Like, whew, yeah.
All right. So here's another thing for you is tips for beginners.
Don't buy it until you try it.
Man, that is so freaking true right there.
Do it.
God
Go to bottle
almighty.
shares. Go to stores that share. If you can't try it, don't buy it. I don't care if Billy said that this is the only bottle and you better get it now. And that's the whole thing. FOMO, right? There'll be another whiskey tomorrow, man. So, and if you miss it, you'll be able to get it. Unfortunately, those flippers will have it. But try it before you buy it, because I've bought so many bottles just for the label, and I didn't like it. And what am I going to do with it?
Here's old Big Chief wisdom for you folks. If one of your buddies out there says, you just got to have this right here, you just got to have this bottle, say, well, if you have it, pour me a glass of it and let me taste it. I can't say that with enough passion. If your buddy wants you to taste it so damn bad, then say, pour me a glass of it, and then I'll try it. And like Brandon said, try it before you buy it. Then there's no regrets. And don't just have a little sip of it. Don't judge it on that first sip. Take and drink yourself a pour of it, and then say, okay, I want to buy that and stuff. Man, I love those answers though.
If you have the ability, go try it again, a second and a third time, because isn't that a crazy thing with whiskey? Penelope Architect, Penelope Toasted, same mash bill. Cracked them open at a bottle share. I cracked one, a buddy brought the other. Wasn't impressed. They sat around 6 months. I come back to them. I'm like, that's pretty impressive whiskey. Now, did the whiskey change? There wasn't a lot of air in the bottle, but maybe. Did my palate change? That's a thing. What did I eat that day? Where was I at? Physically, emotionally, mentally, like all that matters. So, trying it before you buy it's important. But if you could try it a few times before you buy it, you're even better.
Now, I would say that because you'll work, how many days would you go out on a rig for?
We're typically out 15 days.
And there's no alcohol at all in those 15 days.
Zero.
So to me, you got that perfect job because you reset your palate every 15 days. You're getting to take that break. That palate's getting a break. Where Fred, I hate to say, if you're drinking whiskey every damn day, I think you can get burnt out. And I used to go to Mexico for like 10 days, and I try not to drink whiskey while I'm down there. And there's no damn whiskey down there anyways, unless you bring it yourself. Usually, you'll see some Jim Beam down there, maybe some Maker's Mark, some Jack, but typically there's not a whole lot of bourbon at these resorts or whiskey at all. So it's kind of resets my palate and stuff. So I think your job is perfect for this.
It's good for the palate. It's good for the liver. All I drink while I'm out there is water, because it's either water or soda out there, and I'm just not a soda drinker. But the funny thing for you to hear, and for the audience to hear, I come home usually on a Thursday night. when I get home, I'm going to have a pour, or I've stopped by Crittenden's and had a pour with Matt. I don't like whiskey that Thursday. I don't like it at all. It's not good. I can't judge a whiskey on that. If Matt's like, hey, man, I want you to try this one. I was like, I'll try it, but you're going to have to send me home with some of it because you don't want to hear what I'm going to say today. It's funny.
Well, you got to reset that palate. I trust me, I get it. I get it so much.
I keep trying to tell the wife that, like, we've just got to acclimate your palate. Like, I've got to teach you how to warm up and how to get to the point where you can taste the flavor. She can kiss me. If I've been drinking whiskey, she can kiss me and she can give you tasting notes. And the other night I had one. God, what was it? I don't remember. I think it was the ASW Fiddler that I had just gotten from them, and for some reason that night it tasted like a straight hay bale to me. Like, I get picked on for saying grassy and hay notes, but that's what I got. And when she kissed me, I didn't say anything to her. That's exactly what she said. She said, that tastes like dry, dirty grass. I was like, wow.
I gotta say, this 1790 Full Proof right here, this is one of the damn best whiskeys I've ever had. It is.
It is.
Hands down spectacular.
Blows the doors off that 12-year, which was good, but Full Proof so much more affordable. And don't say you get a store pick of it, right?
Well, the thing about this giveaway bottle right here that I have over here, sitting over here, is it just is a store pick of it.
Nice.
It's a Kroger store pick out of Kentucky. And this one's 100. It's 125 proof. I think people are going to enjoy it.
For sure.
They're all. I think they're all 125 proof, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll look at mine and see. You might be right. I'm bad about looking at labels because, honest truth is, like I told you, I don't care. It is exactly the 125 proof. So
yeah.
You're right. Yep.
Well, some of those pet peeves and hot takes on those, I tell you the things for me. Celebrity brands, you're right. I used to think none of them would be good, like Traveler. And I've said this before on other shows. I get pissed off when they use, let's say like Sam Houston, a Texas hero, and then they use Indiana and Kentucky blend. If it has to have meaning, I want it to have meaning, and it should be a Texas bourbon. If you had Davy Crockett, I'd love something from Texas because of Alamo, or from Tennessee. Jim Bowie, same thing. You know, if it's after a man or a woman that's had some meaning, probably from their home state. Try to get something from there. But celebrity brands, some can be good, and then some not so good. Bottle flippers.
Brothers and Bond is pretty good. I hear that the Beyonce is pretty good for Scotch drinkers. I haven't had it, but yeah, you're right.
Bottle flippers, I like to shame them. I mean, if I see a bottle flipper in line, I'll be like, shame on you. But I just think they're taking advantage of people. But if you got the time, I guess, hey, it's the American capitalism right there. It's Instagram flex culture. I hate it, and here's the reason why. Because a lot of Instagrammers out there, I don't know about TikTok, but even Facebook, people buy their followers, and these damn brands believe it. They're like, these people got, how many followers do you have? And I'm like, I don't have that many. Right. I don't have 20 or 30 or 40,000, and I built a brand before 13,000 followers my old podcast had. It took me 4 years to get there, to that 13K. This time it's even harder, I feel like, because the algorithms change and stuff. But I haven't bought any followers. I've did it the old-fashioned way. I've asked friends to share it with their friends, and I think that's the way to do it. And just be who you are, and that's just me. Piss off if you don't like that. If you're buying followers, buy followers, and I guess the brands are going to love you for that. But I'll tell brands that look into that person you're trying to get to market your stuff, and see what their numbers really look like. That's what matters and stuff.
What I've found, and so I'll admit that I have promoted posts and I've promoted YouTube videos in the past. YouTube won't allow me to promote anymore, but I almost felt like because it wasn't organic, it's not beneficial, so I don't do it anymore. Like, I'm going to get 100% organic on everything that I do, because, you know, for the amount of followers that I have on YouTube, I feel like my views should be relatively higher. But so I don't think there's any benefit to it. So if you're going to get into this game, it's a thing. Like, you see everybody else out here, Jason C, Mash and Drum. I love him to death. He's almost at 100,000. He's done it organically, and he's been doing it almost 6 years, and he bust his butt. And you see him, and you're starting out day one, and you're like, "Ooh, I want 100,000 followers." You don't see what this man has gone through, and the nights that he hasn't slept. I talked to him a lot when I first started, and he talked, we were talking about paying for people to do editing and videoing and that kind of stuff. He's like, "Man, you'll be so much better off if you learn to do it yourself, but you're not going to sleep." And boy, was he right. But he was right. Like, it's been beneficial to learn those things. So, but then there are other people out there that, like you said, they're paying for it and they're getting it. And if you go in and look at their views and their likes and comments, that tells the story. You know, the number of followers versus what they're really getting. Sometimes that doesn't add up.
Well, I agree with you, man. You got to put the work in. And we were talking about before we started, I was asking you what your time off looks like, and it seems like you got the gas pedal pressed as hard as it'll press. And I feel like the same way. I always tell people, they're like, "How do you do it?" And I was like, I burn candles at both ends and in the middle, and I just don't look back. And I got to create when I can create. I got a full-time job that's very demanding. It's important to our national security, and I take it seriously, and I don't mess around with whiskey when I do that.
For sure.
And then I got a place that's 13 and a half acres, and that takes, my wife says it takes a full-grown man to take care of it.
That takes an army, I imagine. I grew up on 3 acres, and it was a mess. But
it takes one big man. Some people actually ask me, they're like, "Are you really that big?" And I was like, I feel like I'm a normal-sized guy.
Show them that picture of you and Mike Centella together, or me and you, for that matter. Yeah, you're a big guy. And I'm going to just say this. Every time I sip this 1792 full proof, like, if somebody doesn't want that bottle, let me have it, because that is just good whiskey, Mike. God.
Well, let's talk about this giveaway, folks. So you're going to get one bottle of 1792 full proof. It's from Kroger. It's from my private stash here at the Whiskey Trip at the Bayou Sunset Farm. You're going to get 2 of my etched Spey Rocks glasses right there from Distillery Products. That's a $50 value, probably, and another $50 or $60 for the bottle. So you're going to get $100 giveaway right there. So what I want you to do, you got to subscribe to the Whiskey Trip on YouTube. And then I want you to subscribe to Brewtally Honest Bourbon over on YouTube. Subscribe to both channels, right? And then we're going to check this, because I can text Brandon and ask him, or I can just look at his channel and see if you commented, because he's going to put this video out as well. We're going to share it. This is a true collaboration. But comment with your most brutally honest opinion on a whiskey you tried. And then the bonus is share the post on your story and page on your accounts. We'd really appreciate that. But you got to comment on both of them, on both pages. It's going to be a little extra work, but you're getting a great deal right there, I think. That's a great giveaway.
It's a good whiskey.
You got to be 21, and you got to reside in the U.S. I know I just had somebody from Australia said, "Man, I love one of these giveaways and stuff," but I will tell you how much it costs to ship to Australia. It is, I got to like chop an arm off to pay for it. But by the end of the year, I'm hoping that I can do one giveaway for international listeners out there, for viewers. So that's my goal for the end of the year. And if you win one of these giveaways at the end of the year, I'm going to go through all the giveaways. Everybody that wins a giveaway is going to be entered to win one amazing big package from the Big Chief. So make sure you enter. You got to enter to win. If you don't enter, then hey, you can't complain and say these things are fake or whatever. It's not a scam. It is my whiskey. I'm giving it away. These distilleries are giving whiskey away, helping me out every week, and I hope to keep it going and stuff. I just had another distillery agree to do another giveaway with me, so I really appreciate you coming on here, Brandon. Brewtally Honest Bourbon is what it is. It is the truth, folks. So any last words for our listeners out there or viewers?
Man, I just always say let the whiskey and friendships flow.
That's pretty good. Now, where can listeners find you on all the social media platforms?
Man, I'm Brutally Honest Bourbon on everything: YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Probably most active on everything but Facebook. Facebook for me is more of a place to advertise for different brands, but you can find me on any of them, and brutallyhonestbourbon@gmail.com. So pretty easy to find me.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, once again, thank you, brother, for coming on here, sharing whiskey with me, sharing your story with my listeners, our viewers.
For sure.
I can't thank you enough, really.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
This is what I got to say to you, listeners. I want to raise my glass to those who speak the truth and sip it straight. This ride's for you. May your shelves stay stocked, your glasses stay full, and your whiskey trip never lose its way. That's what I got to say for you. You know where you can find old Big Chief? You can find me at The Whiskey Trip on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and now YouTube. Make sure you listen to Mark and Matt, The Bourbon Life. They got great shows they're putting out, Spotify, on Apple Podcast, on YouTube. Once you've listened to them and you like our shows, give us that 5-star review and some comments. We really appreciate those on Apple Podcast. They help open up doors to distilleries like Barton, 1792, get great whiskey in our hand. I get great guests on my show like Mr. Brandon here from Brewtally Honest Bourbon because of those reviews, because of those comments. Copy and paste those over onto my Facebook page. I'm trying to hit that 100 reviews before the end of the year to hit that algorithm that I need. I don't know what the hell the 100 does. It probably does nothing for me, but that's my goal for the end of the year. I got a whole bunch of goals that I wanted to reach this year in 2025, and I'm just kicking along. So help me out, and I'll put more content out for you by the end of the year, I guess. I don't know, shit. But if you got a distillery in your backyard, you got a guest that you want to be on my show, hit me up at mike@thewhiskeytrip.com. Send me an email with the details. I'll reach out to that person. Some of them I can get on here. Some of you have sent me comments and said, hey, I'd like this distillery on there. Some of them will send me whiskey. Some won't. So I can only do with what's sent to me. And I'll put it out there. Other than that, I hope you're enjoying the content. Don't forget about this t-shirt right here. Don't forget about that badass giveaway right there. I think you'll really enjoy it. This is Big Chief, and thanks for taking this ride with me.